everyone. My name is Danielle Marie, but before we get into that, let's... So I mentioned and asked the room who here's heard of blockchain, and is going to put in your brain for a moment, why blockchain? Why are we here today? Why are we talking about it? Todd's given us this whole history of money, and it's essentially led us today why we're here. So who here has actually purchased cryptocurrency before? Just by a show of hands. I just want to see who we have in the room, okay? That's amazing. It's pretty much almost everyone. The next question I have here, who has never purchased cryptocurrency? And it's okay if you haven't. Welcome. Fantastic. You've got, oh, it's all right, put your hand up. It just really kind of helps me get a gauge of who's in the room. So today, this presentation is a little bit more for beginners, so if you've heard of blockchain before, bear with me. But just a little bit about me. My name's Danielle Marie. I'm originally from Canada, as you can hear from my accent. I moved here about 8 years ago, loved it and decided to never leave. My background's in training and coaching. I started in corporate hospitality and management, moved into the health and wellness, became a Zumba instructor, personal trainer. I've always had a passion for teaching and helping others. And then I found cryptocurrency in late 2017 and everything changed for me. I knew that there was something big here and I needed to learn about it. I didn't really take it seriously until 2019, and I decided to start my studies to become the first female that was fully qualified to teach both the diploma and the advanced diploma of applied blockchain, and now that's what I do for a living. I'm extremely passionate about blockchain and education, and that led me to creating a few other organizations. So I launched All Things Blockchain, which is a nonprofit association that provides free education and networking events, and it's based here in Brisbane. So anyone that's not a part of it, I recommend that you go and tap into that community. I am also the organizer of Women in Blockchain Queensland. I'm quite passionate about trying to showcase some of the amazing women in the space and how we can bring more women into the space. And I also created She's Blockchain Savvy, which is my personal brand that is just truly focused on helping beginners and primarily women to enter in the space. So that's a little bit about me. Now let's jump into why you're really here. The number one question I get asked when they ask me what I do for a living, and I say I teach blockchain, and a lot of the times they think that means Bitcoin, and they ask me what is blockchain. So there's many different ways that I can explain blockchain to you. I can give you the real technical definition. I can explain it in all ways, shapes, or forms, but it's really my job to explain it in a very simple, easy way, and then take you through this journey of understanding it on a more complex level. At the end of the day, blockchain, all we're doing is storing data. But it's the way that we're storing the data, the way that we're using the cryptography, and I'm going to take you through this journey and I'm going to unpack it for you, is that we're creating these immutable records. And if you don't know what immutable means, it means it can never be altered, tampered with, or destroyed. And then we create these open blockchains, which means it's completely transparent. Anybody can go onto the network, which is essentially creating these trustless transactions. Todd talked about this trust. Well, we're creating this environment for these trustless transactions, which is creating a new flow of value. Now, why is education so important? If anybody was like me and was too busy partying and traveling the world during Web 1.1 and Web 2.2, I wasn't able to take on a lot of opportunities in this space because I wasn't educating myself. So I'm truly passionate about people taking the time to learn about this industry, and you guys are all here, so I congratulate you for doing that. And it's important to understand the history. We've learned about the history of money. Now let's look about Web 2.0. So it's the new paradigm of the pardon me, I'm just going to move this, internet. It's taking the best of Web 0.0 and Web 0.2 and kind of bringing it all together, all of the learnings that we've had, and we've created this peer-to-peer decentralized networks. So it's a really kind of exciting time to be. And if we take a look at the history of the internet here, we've got, and I'm not going to go through this entire chart here, but I just really want to kind of focus down here, on one of the main things on the bottom, Web 1.0, we're, doing web forms and it's very static. Then we move into these web applications. And now we're in the world of these smart contract applications and these decentralized networks. And it's so exciting when you actually take a little bit of time. And, I encourage you to kind of go and research a little bit of the history of the internet. But where we're going and the amount of where we're at in terms of the Web 0.3, it's like we're taking control of our own data and how we're being able to use the internet. So I really want to take the time to create an updated slide. This is the best one that I've seen. Has anyone seen this here before, the history of the internet? I really want to create one that goes longer than 2014. But I want to paint this picture here for you that everyone, okay, the internet started in 1983. That's as we know it, okay? But the concepts of developing the protocols, which is kind of where we're at the moment in the industry of blockchain, trying to decide what protocol we're going to use. That's down here in TCP and way before we started using the internet. 13 years later, we have the internet to do very basic stuff. It takes a whole other century and a dot-com boom and for the bubble to burst before us to go into Web 2.0, which is where we have our socials and your YouTubes and your Facebooks and your eBays and all of that. And then it takes us to kind of where we are today and how fast kind of technology is kind of evolving now. But when you actually take how long the internet took us to get to where we are today, we now use our phones for everything. Who here uses their phone for their wallet? I think the only thing we probably don't have is our ID, and I think New South Wales is already trying to fix that problem. However, it's on a centralized system, and I heard they got hacked. But we're going there. Everything is going to be on our phones. So I just like to paint that picture of the history of the internet, but I also think it's important that we understand the history of blockchain. Because most people think that Satoshi Nakamoto, invented blockchain. The original concept was back here in the early 90s, and it took about 10 years. Nick Szabos in 2005 actually launched the first kind of blockchain called Bitgold. It was unsuccessful because they were unable to solve the issue of something called double spending. Not going to go into that now, but that's when Satoshi Nakamoto used proof of work concepts, and I am going to explain a little bit about that, so bear with me. And that was when the first real world use case application that was able to be used was born. Then we fast forward here to 2013. This is when smart contracts and Vitalik Buterin, who's also Canadian, brought out smart contracts and really changed the way that we could use blockchain. And we can use it for all these other applications other than Bitcoin, which is amazing, but there's a lot of other applications that can be used for, and brings us to kind of where we are today in terms of building these smart contracts applications. Who here owns an NFT, just out of curiosity? Okay, cool. Just like to see who's out there playing with these different applications. So I think it's important when you start to kind of learn about the history of the internet. Now, a lot of the times people say to me, okay, crypto and blockchain, when I tell them what I would do, and they say, oh no, blockchain's Bitcoin. It's not, okay? I'd like to make sure that people really understand that cryptocurrency uses this distributed ledger technology to send cryptocurrencies, and blockchain is a distributed ledger technology. And my easiest way I like to explain it to kind of complete beginners is kind of saying like emails aren't the internet. We need the internet to be able to send those emails, and we need to be able to have those networks connected. And that's essentially, we have this distributed ledger technology, and we're sending these cryptocurrencies over these different networks. So right now we use the Ethereum network for Ethereum and Bitcoin for Bitcoin. And they're just different networks. So let's dive in a little bit deeper of what is blockchain. So it's a distributed ledger technology. Most people don't realize that there's multiple different types of distributed ledger technology. It's just the way that the cryptography is being used. It's this open public ledger that anybody can have access to. And in my opinion and a lot of others, it's really created this internet of value, allowing us to be able to transfer value through these peer-to-peer systems. So let's get into kind of more of the boring stuff. So the data is stored across all these multiple of nodes, making it completely decentralized. And it's this type of structure which is really kind of helping us keep it safe from hackers. And I'm going to unpack that a little bit when we start talking about consensus mechanisms. And as I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin was the first real use case of applied blockchain by using this proof of work to solve the double spending problem. But then we have smart contracts that came along, creating all these other potential use cases for DLT, and it can literally be applied to transfer anything of value. And I think it's so exciting when you start to learn about all the different applications, and the sky is really the limit when we start looking at this technology. Now I want to kind of give you a little bit better visual representation. First, I forgot what this slide is. We're going to dive a little bit deeper. So blockchain is a collection of nodes. For those of you that don't know what a node is, essentially it is a computer that basically sends, stores, and receives data. In blockchain, we're doing this through these DLT networks, but you can also have nodes on centralized networks. Every node in the blockchain world joins voluntarily, and they are incentivized to participate in the network. And we do this so that we can keep the network secure. Now, in the case of Bitcoin, you may have heard of Bitcoin mining. Who here has heard of Bitcoin mining before? So it's probably not a first term, new term. They are rewarded in Bitcoin for participating and keeping the network safe by using this consensus mechanism called proof of work. Now, as many of you are probably aware, there's thousands of different cryptocurrencies on the market and different types of blockchain, and Bitcoin is just one of them. So let's dive deeper. What's inside of a block? So there's these things called generic applications of blockchain, and this means that every single blockchain has these characteristics. I don't care if it's Bitcoin, I don't care if it's Ethereum, even Solana when it goes down. It has these characteristics, okay? So you've got a timestamp, you've got the data that's inside of that, what's the transaction that's happening, and then it has a hash. Now, I should probably say not every single blockchain might not have a hash if they're using a different type of cryptography, but I don't want to confuse you too much. Let's just go with proof of work at the moment. It has a hash and the previous hash, and that's what links the blocks together, creating this blockchain. And what is a hash? Some people are wondering. Okay, well, it's a unique digital fingerprint, and there's basically only kind of one of them in the world, and each of these blocks are connected. So you'll see as this diagram up here, in the very first one it says 000. Well, that's the Genesis block. So let's just pretend like that's the first block of the Bitcoin that was generated. And then the next block is connected to the previous block, having this link of blockchains. Now, what does this do? Well, essentially these consensus algorithms, which I'm going to go through in the next slide, I believe I have to press this button, is proof of work is the most popular one, which we've got Bitcoin and Ethereum's currently built on. And then we also have another one called proof of stake. Now, proof of work, by having these blocks that are connected to each other with the hash, and these are these mathematical problems that these miners are solving to be able to get the reward to keep the network safe, it uses a lot of computational power because they're all competing with each other basically to solve the problem to be able to get the reward. So that creates this computational limitations around blockchain. When we got proof of stake, this method that they're actually validating the blocks by the amount of stake that they hold, they get a reward from the fee, and it is proposed that these proof of stake mechanisms are more cost efficient and energy efficient, and that's why a lot of newer age blockchains are being built on proof of stake. So we're not going to go too much deeper into the different consensus mechanisms. I think you should go out there and do a little bit more research yourself. But I do want to bring to your attention that there's different types of blockchains. So you've got your public blockchains. We've been talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, but you also have private blockchains. And you have to have permission to access these. And a Hyperledger Fabric, for example, is a really popular one. A lot of enterprises are doing a lot of research and development on that. And then you also have your consortium blockchains, which are semi-private and semi-decentralized, and a lot of kind of large consortium of networks of organizations and enterprises are using this style. Now, I briefly want to kind of bring a comparison chart here of Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's only a couple of things I really want to highlight out to some of you. You'll see here the release method. Okay, you've got your Genesis block, which was mined, and then you've got pre-sale, so that essentially means Ethereum was the original OG of ICOs. Everyone here know what an ICO is? No? So it's an initial coin offering when they basically go to the market to do a crowd fund. Another thing I want to point out is the consensus mechanism. Ethereum's planning to move over to proof of stake, and then also down at the bottom, their processing of their block times. Ethereum's 12 to 14 seconds and Bitcoin's every 10 minutes. So I wanted to bring this up so that you could kind of do a little bit of a comparison and understanding of the differences between the different networks, because when you start to understand the differences, it will really kind of help you understand the different use cases and the different applications. So next I just want to talk about, well, what are some advantages of applying blockchain, especially if we're going to start thinking about how we're going to use it for different business applications. And some of the more important things that you really want to see, we've already kind of talked about. We have no central point of failure because we've got all these nodes participating and validating in the network. But we're building trust automatically into it. We have these governance that's done by consensus, and I'm so excited to see all these different types of DAOs that are being formed at the moment, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But these are just some amazing benefits of applying blockchain technology to different use cases. So let's briefly talk about how is blockchain actually being applied. Okay, we know about cryptocurrency. We know about the tokens and it's creating these new flows of value through DeFi. But there's a lot of other industries that people don't know are applying this technology, such as smart agriculture, provenance and traceability. So in our supply chain industries. Healthcare, record keeping, drug traceability, a lot came out of the whole COVID and the pandemic, a lot of medical applications going on there. Real estate and registries, and literally the list goes on, and I actually have a couple of local projects that I'm going to showcase to you here in a moment. But I just wanted to paint a picture of all the different types of industries that are applying blockchain. It's not just the financial ecosystem. Like Bitcoin's amazing, and most of the people who are in this room is because we believe in this new financial ecosystem that we're creating. But I think that it's important that you understand how it's being applied in other areas. So there's two sides of blockchain. People often say to me, like when they meet me, they think that I'm super technical. And I always say to people, I'm the most technical, non-technical person I know. Don't ask me to do the AV, I can't sort that out, but let me tell you about emerging technologies. We have applied blockchain, which is the business application side. Okay, that's what I teach. I teach how we create future-proofed business models by applying distributed ledger technology with other technologies. Blockchain's amazing, but it's the way that we store the data. We have to be thinking about smart contracts, oracles. How are we getting this information into our system to be able to trust it? So that's what I do. I help people build these business models. But then there's the technical side of it where I need to go and communicate with the developers and say, hey, I need you to build this for me. If you are interested in the coding and technical side, I'm not your girl, but I do know people, so come speak to me. I'll make some introductions for you. If you want to learn more about the business applied side, definitely come and speak to me. If you're interested in both, I highly recommend that you invest in upskilling yourself, because you will be highly sought after now and in the next 5 to 10 years. These are skill sets that need to be developed at the moment. So people often ask me, why blockchain? Why study blockchain? Why is it so important? What type of career can I get when they want to, potentially thinking to come and study one of the accredited courses that I teach? You can work in more of, a consultant, strategist, educational role, but you could also from a blockchain developer to an architect. I tell people, think about your current skill set that you have that you can upskill yourself and bring into startups and organizations. I get phone calls every week from a startup looking for somebody in their marketing department or in the law department. So you can take the skill sets that you have now and you can upskill yourself by learning about this technology and really future-proofing not only your career or potentially businesses. Just out of curiosity, how many business owners do we have in the room? Okay, cool. Thank you. Can't remember if I have one more. Oh, my bad. I made this little video, and just give me one moment, because I was trying to stay on time. So I did it as a video, and now it's not playing. Why? See, this is why I'm the technical, most non-technical person you know. I'm just trying to press play here. All right, here we go. How can I fast forward? Whose computer is this? How do I, this isn't a Mac. See, I'm a Mac girl as well. You give me a new computer and I can't, I just want to like fast forward this video. Yeah. It's not working, is it?
No.
All right. Well, we'll let that, I just can't remember where I'm up to. It's only because I've got a few, I'm over time as well.
You're off.
All right. It's all going mad here. No, I just have a few, I'm very close to wrapping up. I have a few local projects that I want to showcase to you, so I'm just going to buy a little bit of time here because I pressed stopped and I shouldn't have because it was this new video software platform. Anyways, two different types of blockchain. You can work on the applied side, you can go and kind of get a career inside of it. I was going to open up to some questions at the end, but does anybody have here, I have time for one quick question. Does anyone have a question so far? No, she's like, no, I got it, I'm sorted. Want to move on to the next. So yeah, I did have a few local projects that I wanted to kind of showcase to you, which should hopefully be kind of coming up in a moment. How many local projects do we have here? Anybody working in a crypto project at the moment? Oh wow, that's very cool. And who here wants to get into the industry? Fantastic. I want to speak to all of you so I can help you in some way, shape, or form. So I feel a little bit off track because I've lost my my point of thought because of my slides. So I'm going to tell you a quick little story about this software. It's called VideoScribe, and I thought I'd make this video presentation with this video so that I would stay really on time. And my recommendation to you is don't use a new software that you've never used before to create a presentation 2 days before you have to give it to them. Because yeah, you end up being on stage waiting for your presentation to go through and you can't. But lessons learned. I have 4 local Australian startups that I want to bring to you. Now, I'm full disclosure, I'm not endorsing these projects. I'm not saying go out and invest in them. I'm not saying to go and join them. But what I wanted to do was to showcase that these 4 different startups, or not, some of them aren't even startups anymore, that are here local. There we go. So let's talk about these local blockchain products. I will, first disclosure though, this first one I am a part of, but I'm not endorsing it in any way, shape, or form, okay? I think it's really important for you to learn about these because there's lots of career opportunities to be working with these organizations. And the first one I'm going to talk about is called PowerPlay. It's a new startup here based in Brisbane, and they're basically an energy retail provider that is incentivizing people with using their power in more sustainable ways, and then they're going to pay you in crypto when you use your power in more sustainable ways, and then you can stake it. Who here knows what staking is? Great. Okay, so you go ahead and you stake your cryptocurrency, and then you get a reduction on your power bill. So I think it's really cool on what they're trying to do. I've learned so much about power and how volatile the power market is. I'm not sure, is anyone here in the energy sector? No? Okay, because there's been a lot happening, and I've learned recently that actually the energy market's more volatile than the crypto market. Who would have thought? We just don't hear about it because they don't talk about when the energy prices go really expensive. They just talk about when Bitcoin drops. So it's really interesting when you start learning about how corrupt the power industry is, and so this project is all about that. They're not live at the moment. Keep an eye out for it. We're in our beta phase, but I think it's really cool when you have projects like this that are trying to take these incentivization models and cryptocurrencies and using smart contracts to apply to different technologies. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is Jura. I don't know a lot about this, but I do know it is a local project. I came across it during my studies in agriculture. So if anybody is in agriculture or knows somebody, they're actually built on a permissioned Ethereum network, and they're using the technology essentially to help farmers to kind of create these smart farms. The next one is Everledger. Has anyone here heard of Everledger? Okay, highly recommend that you just go and do a little bit of research on what they're doing, because they're taking basically supply chain industry, anywhere from wine, diamonds, fine foods, using like IoT tamper devices with emerging technology. This is where the power is. People need to understand blockchain's great, but it's when we start emerging it with these other technologies to solve real world problems that we have. And Everledger is an Australian-based company that is doing that on many different levels. And the last one I'm going to bring to you is Power Ledger. Has anyone heard of Power Ledger? Okay, this one has a little soft spot for me because it was the first altcoin that I ever bought. I thought it was going to be really cool. It's like, yeah, I'm going to buy this, and then one day I'm going to pay for my power using my power tokens. I still think it's a cool project. They haven't kind of flourished into what we thought they would be, but those are some local projects that I really recommend that you go and check out. Now, often people, when you're in the very beginning stages, you're wondering, okay, well, what should I do next? So I have a couple of recommendations to you. For me personally, education is really essential if you're wanting to upskill yourself or transfer yourself into a new emerging space. So you're already here today, so congratulations on taking that. You've got some amazing content and learnings coming up for you. So I think you're going to get a lot out of that. Engage with the community. We have such an active community here. It's actually giving me goosebumps this bear market, that we're in a bear market, and we have events every single week. Like I heard last night, they had an amazing turnout at the event. And then go and experiment with the web tool, go and experiment with the tools of the Web3. For any beginners who's never created a MetaMask, we do a monthly workshop where we teach you how to create a MetaMask and secure your private keys. So go and tap into the community. For anyone that wants to connect with me, if you scan that, if you're very new to the industry, that's what I specialize in. I've got free courses on there. So I've got a free crypto for beginners, a free blockchain. I've got more information if you're actually interested in going into more of a career industry. So that's for me. Thank you for accepting my technical difficulties, and have a good day.